physical therapist herself. Following the earthquake of 2010, she and her family traveled to Haiti to provide medical aid to the many injured and disabled. What started out as a single trip ended up becoming a lifelong passion as she has continued to travel back and forth to Haiti ever since. Wow, that is, it's one of those stories where you hear somebody does that and it's just, what on earth inspired you to decide to go to Haiti?
It was kind of like a crazy thing. I don't know if you remember back when the earthquake happened, but
I do.
And it was just on the news, hundreds of thousands of people died. And there was this moment when I was watching CNN and there were these two therapists and they were like jumping out of the TV and they just said, look at us. There's two of us here and there's just thousands of people that need help. And they just it was like they leaped through the TV and they were like, if you're a physical therapist, just come. And
wow.
I hadn't really done anything. I don't know. I just decided to go. It was crazy, But
what did you learn from that? And what did you learn from taking that leap yourself? What that kind of inspired, somebody on CNN in a foreign country saying, come help. And you're like, okay, not many people answer that call.
You know what? I just learned so much. It's just like, for me, it was so life-giving because, physical therapy helps people every day, but this was like, I don't know, it was just to a whole new level. And for me, it kind of felt like everything I had ever learned, it just sort of came together. And it was like I could use all of my skills, not just my physical therapy skills, but like problem solving skills and, you just name it. It's just like, the Haiti is really different than the United States.
Yes.
But it was a disaster. It was like, it was like, raw and, you had to like everything, there were barriers everywhere. So you had to just come up with solutions, to solve the problems. And so it kind of gives you that opportunity to really dig deep and say, like, to not really think, sometimes you dig deep and you go, okay, I just got to do this. So, find a way. And because you're not like second guessing yourself so much, I think sometimes you can make better decisions because you just like, okay, I got to do this.
That's really interesting. And the infrastructure is so nothing that you really are dealing, and particularly post-disaster, you really are dealing with the bare bones, no pun intended there, and having to just creatively come up with all of these resources, solutions, organizing people. Was there a language barrier? Did you speak the language or no? Wow.
They speak Creole, which I guess if I had spoke a little French, now I can speak, I'm pretty good with Creole, but if I had spoke a little French, it probably would have been helpful. But somehow, even in the hospital, you would just write whatever language you spoke. So maybe the last doctor wrote in Spanish and, someone wrote in Russian and I don't know, but they had, here, there would just be like these volunteer translators who would kind of follow you along and, where there was a will, there was a way. Yeah.
It's wild what happens, the people who are brought together in those situations. How many other people answered the call to be a physical therapist when you were down there?
There were others.
You're like two. You're like, not many, actually.
I don't know, where I was in the general hospital, I don't know, it was just me.
You're like, actually,
I did. There were so many, what it was, there were so many people that were injured that there were other locations, like there was a whole setup at the hospital and there were at least two other therapists there. And, through the years, I've met like a lot of the therapists that I meet that go to Haiti, that's how they started. They started during the earthquake. Yeah.
And then what was it like to come back after that experience? How long were you down there? And then how did it change your perception of your life back home?
Well, we stayed for 8 weeks. So we really made we committed for 4. But while I was down there in the general hospital, which was just a series of tents, there was a particular young lady who had double amputation. Like a lot of people had maybe lost an arm or a leg, or they had, rods in their legs, but she lost both her legs. And I know it's crazy. And when she was going home, my husband and I were like, oh, we'll wheel you home. And, even though I saw there are 10 cities everywhere, like the whole city is basically flattened. I knew that there were 10 cities, but I didn't actually personally know someone that was going to live in one. So like when we wheeled her home, I wheeled her to the front of a church, and it was a box, like a physical, box with just tents and people. And that was when, all of a sudden it's that moment when things stop, like people talked about, you have that moment when it goes quiet. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was so busy doing that I didn't really think about what happens afterwards. So all of a sudden it just hit me, and I just started crying, and I had a nurse, she was Haitian, and she was yelling at me to stop crying, be strong. And I was just looking at this poor young woman, and I'm like, I just remember saying to her, she couldn't understand anything I was saying, but I'm like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to help you. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it was that reality of is this really where you're going to live? And then she turned out she had an 11-month-old baby that was 11 pounds. And so for me, I was like, oh my goodness, so that's kind of what started it. And so I am not I hardly know who my legislators are. I'm not politically involved, but we had free phone service. All the phone companies gave us free phone service. So,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So I picked up the phone and I called, my local, I guess, assemblyman. And I just was like, I need to get someone out of Haiti. This woman needs help. She needs surgery. She's going to die here. What do I need to do? And they just walked me through it. So my life changed a lot because I ended up staying another 4 weeks because it took time to get the papers. I had to get medical visas and all that stuff that you have to get, find her birth certificate, crazy things. But, I went to Haiti an empty nester.
Oh, wow.
I came back from Haiti with a mom and a 11-and-a-half-month-old.
Oh, wow.
So, it's kind of a story of it takes a village, but they are our second family. We always joke, my husband was with me. I did bring him with me because I was really nervous about going. So he came down with me. He was the big problem solver kind of person. He's like the rock kind of guy that just is stable. And I don't know, he doesn't get as kerflunkled as I do. But so we always joke that, when we did our Christmas pictures, you do photo pictures every year. our photo pictures when we came back, this was our second family without actually having to get divorced.
Wow.
So my life is very different. They still live with me, and this young woman walks and she works and she speaks English and she went to school, and the little boy he's 11. Actually, it's going to be 12 in May. So
wow.
They took over my son and daughter's room because they had moved out of the house, and I was like, oh, it's perfect, room for you. And so, yeah, life is a little different.
And are you still going back down to Haiti and doing work there?
Yeah. I continued. I first went down. I never really thought that much that I would continue to go, but I went down originally to basically show her family, because they were pretty trusting to just let her get on an airplane with us.
Right.
So I went down at the end of 2010 to basically, it was back in the day, we didn't even have the phones that have movies. So I brought a DVD player, and we made a DVD of her, showing that for real, she's alive and she's healthy and she's thriving. And we just, so I've continued to go down there. And the big thing was that they really, physical therapy, so many people, 300,000 people, more people had, became severely disabled on top of the, people that were already disabled, with so few therapists, that the need for physical therapy, it can make such a difference. it just can, in a child's life, in an adult's life, in anybody's life, it helps people like do like everything that you guys have been talking about. It's like, we want people to be able to do what they love and be creative.
Right.
They need their bodies, you know?
Right, so right.
That's been my whole mission, has just been not single-handedly at all, but supporting basically the efforts to, you know, grow physical therapy in Haiti and help educate people to become physical therapists and support, like the society there is very young of Haitian physical therapists, to support all of their efforts in physical therapy and basically making physical therapy available for everybody in Haiti the way that it is in the United States.
Right. This is something I've been thinking a lot about, you know, as we were talking about creativity, and just, I love the diversity of the people that we're talking to and what they do, because you can't really be focused on, you know, what your greatest dreams are if you're not eating enough, if you don't have those basic needs met, or like you said, your body isn't working, or you're limited in that capacity. And so finding creative solutions to helping at that very basic level seems like such a priority, because there are still so many people who need this. You know, they need, I have a doctor who goes over and does like hand surgery for kids in Zimbabwe. And it's like, just blows my mind, you know, just, I'm like, you fix people's hands.
But it makes, like, you know what, it makes such a difference. And the people are so appreciative. And you know what, they might not have a lot of material things, but they have spirit. They have, you know, like that, when you go there, I get more from them than I give. Like you, it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but you, when you're there, you see the community of people and how they are, and they support one another. And it makes you really like, it's great. Cause I don't know, I always bring those things back, you know, you bring that feeling back, and that, you know, that ability to just go like, yeah, that's what's important in life.
We had an interesting discussion in South Africa with a guy who was talking about how he he had a friend go to South Africa at first, and they were like, how do you live here? You're so poor. And the South African was like, what do you mean poor? You know what? We have everything we need. We have a roof over our head. It's like a very judgmental, you know, you have to define what that word means. And they're rich in so many other things. It's very judgmental to assume like like you said, there's lots that we could learn, and community seems to be like a massive one in this kind of breakdown.
Mm-hmm. That's it. It's so true. And it's that untangible thing that you can't find here. Like, that's what, like, a lot of times I just want to go back. It's like, you know, because it's so life-giving to just be in that kind of environment where people, they enjoy themselves. You don't have to have, you know, money and material things, and it helps you, sobers you a little bit as to like, well, what's really important in life. You know,
I love that. And what inspires you creatively, or who or what?
Well, I would say that the Haitian people, for sure. You know, like every time I go there, it's like I just come back. It's like there's always a story. Like one time we had we had a flat tire, and it was raining, and you know, we couldn't get the tire changed. And this is how they helped. They didn't just change the tire. There wasn't a tire. They didn't have any way to change the tire. They took a tire from their car, they put it on our car, and they're like, just come back tomorrow after you fix the tire. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, we don't even know these people. And the doctor that I was with, he goes, no, it's fine. We'll bring it back tomorrow. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, so that just, to me, it inspires me to be a better person. You know, like when I see how good and kind the people are there, and they share everything. You know, if they have half a piece of bread, they cut it in 10 pieces if there's 10 people. And it reminds me, like one of the other guys that was, what was his name? Ensign, you know, like it just reminds you it helps you to be a better person, for sure.
Yeah. I love that. I love the work you're doing. I would love to hear more about it. And are you giving any presentations later in the week people can check out?
We are. They should. You know what? So we're on Friday at 3 o'clock. I actually am going to have a young gentleman who is going to share what does it really take to, to get educated and to become a physical therapist. And it's really good to like see it from his side. So he's in Haiti. So
oh, cool.
Yeah. He's Haitian. So it's great. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to hearing more about all the things you're doing. And thanks for being like that one person who can show that one person can really make a difference.
Oh my God. Thank you. And I've learned so much. I took tons of notes already today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.